President of the United States is in a position where his decision space is becoming more constrained. Right here. This comes out today, in fact. CPD, Committee on Presidential Debates, announces second presidential debate will be virtual. Right here. In order to protect the health and safety of all involved in the second presidential debate, scheduled October 15th, 2020, the Commission on Presidential Debates announced the following today. The second presidential debate will take the form of a town meeting in which the candidates will participate from separate remote locations. The town meeting participants and the moderator, Steve Scully, senior executive producer and political editor, C-SPAN Networks, will be located at the Adrian, Ash Center for the Performing Arts in Miami-Dade County in Miami, Florida. The White House pool will provide coverage for the second presidential debate. Immediately, if I am not mistaken, minutes. Well, it has to be to some degree of minutes, right? Even if it's 1,000. But minutes, I think. After that, Trump reacts. And I would go so far as to say, maybe, depending upon the rule set that Trump agreed to in the beginning, maybe he's right. Because I would feel this way if I was Trump. Because your advantages are undermined in the way that they're trying to create that form. And so if you're Trump, you're like, whoa, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. They're not going to cut me off like a child. You're not going to. You see him in the background just kind of moving around. Yeah, he's like, yeah, fuck that. No. And almost immediately. And again, like I said, depending on the rules. The catch is, what levers of power do they have to compel Trump to behave that way? Did Trump agree to something where he could be diminished and compelled to participate? Now, he's the president of the United States. He doesn't have to participate if he doesn't necessarily want to. But I'm making a point of, I don't know what they agreed to. And did they agree that this body would have some kind of power over them where the candidate couldn't necessarily negate or disagree with the rule set? Meaning, did these guys step into an arena where they didn't necessarily control whether or not they could fight, or who they can fight? I want to go to that, but there's something else that's a little bit more important. This is a death knell for Trump, or you could say the nail in his coffin. But I know death knell any different. But I'm just saying, his decision space is narrowing. His opportunities are diminishing. What are you going to do to change the course of this race? And at this point, you went and caught COVID. And because you went and caught COVID, and your body is full of these experimental medications, like, give it to the hospital. Give it to the hospital. I need that socialized medicine to save my life. You did that. Nobody told you to walk around without a mask on. You did that. And because you did that, your one opportunity to mix it up with Joe Biden might just be ruined. Yes, it's hilarious that they're going to put you behind a glass jar and cut you off when you run too long. Mr. President, you ran a second over. Nobody told you to go and catch COVID. You wanted to be an alpha male. You thought it was weak and unmanly to wear a mask. Let's see how unmanly it is when they cut you off when you run over a few seconds. Either way, whether you choose to debate or not, the problem is you're in a situation where you need to change the flow of this race. You are getting kicked in the balls in one poll after the next. And even though it is closer in some of the swing states, even in states that you won, it looks like you are losing. States like Florida, for example. If not the debate, what? Welcome to the soapbox. My name is Jamarl Thomas. This is the Progressive Soapbox. If you guys dig this content, please like, share, and subscribe. You can always support this content through PayPal or Patreon. I like to say this content is brought to you by you, so I appreciate you the opportunity to allow me to do this. Presidential debate will be virtual. Donald Trump. Primal scream. Hell no. Hell no. I am not going to do that. You're not going to cut me off like a little boy. That's not going to be me. Let's play the clip. Maria Bartiromo.
Tonight, I wanted to do one last night, but I think I'm better to a point that I feel better than I did, I jokingly said 20 years ago. I feel perfect. There's nothing wrong. I had a case. I got it knocked out. I think it was Regeneron that was responsible for it. Because of that, it was sort of like almost a gift from heaven because of what I went through. And I had I felt pretty lousy. A lot of people did. And a lot of people do. No matter how good the security, you're not going to. I beat him in the first debate. At the second debate, we have a never Trumper as a host, but that's okay because I beat him in the second debate also. And but I'm not going to do a virtual debate.
So Mr. President, you're not going to do it because the CPD, the Commission on Presidential Debates, announcing this morning that the second presidential debate will be virtual. Are you saying you're not going to participate?
No, I'm not going to waste my time on a virtual debate. That's not what debating's all about. You sit behind a computer and do a debate. It's ridiculous. And then they cut you off whenever they want. I have a host who I always thought was a nice guy, but I see he's a never Trumper. Came out that he's a never Trumper. We do have some of them, Maria, believe it or not, because they don't like to win. But I'm not doing a virtual debate. They didn't even tell us about the debate, Maria.
So you just learned this morning?
Yeah, we learned it the same way you learned it. They called up 2 minutes ago, and it was announced. And they're trying to protect Biden. Everybody is. They're trying, like that NBC disaster where he went on this show with Lester Holt. It was meant for a child. It wasn't meant for a grown person. He gets up and he says, "We're not fracking. We're not fracking." He was fracking for 6 months. He was fracking. He was raising his very thin hand, and he was fracking. And now all of a sudden he's not fracking. Well, tell the Pennsylvania people that you're going. It's ridiculous. He said he's not fracking. That's all he said. And then all of a sudden he goes to a fracking mode. And how about her? She committed her life to it. And all of a sudden, she's a fracker. She's a big fracker. They're going to stop fracking the minute they get into office. They're lying to everybody. They're lying about so many different things. But you have to confront people. You can't do it.
I want to talk to you about that. I want to talk to you about what you heard last night. But, Mr. President, you say you're not going to do this debate. Address the criticism, Mr. President, the criticism that you removed your mask for a photo op. You got to the top of the step.
Okay, then she goes into that particular part. He says he's not doing the debate. Now, here's the thing. Trump is right about something, and I think he's right about something that people overlook. Debate is not just argumentation. It's not just what you say. Keep in mind, when people think about something, when they make a perspective or take a particular point of view, do this versus that, those things, where is that coming from? Where is that coming from? Is that coming from your intellect saying do X or Y, or is that coming from something deep in you that says X or Y? Meaning this feeling of sorts. The feeling is primary. The intellect comes afterwards in order to kind of make an excuse for why that feeling is, rational and why that feeling needs to be necessary. But the feeling is primary. When people are watching a debate, they're watching that debate. They're hearing that debate. They have all of these ideas in their heads and everything else about the candidates and everything else. But ultimately, it's not just what they say. It's also what you see that matters. If you're listening to a debate by the radio, or if you're watching the debate, you're having two different experiences. I'm telling you, it matters. It matters. When one candidate looks like he's domineering over the other candidate, what does that give you an impression of? That goes beyond what the candidate says. When Donald Trump is just leering behind Hillary Clinton, and it looks so creepy and weird. When Donald Trump is doing his speech and Chris Christie is just standing there, weirdly, strangely, this big alpha male, tamed by Donald Trump. Like, when you see that stuff, it has an effect that goes beyond what the individual is saying. So when Trump is making the point that, no, we need to be, that's not a debate. That's not a debate. He understands my strength in this is basically to dominate the stage. Dominate. You got to dominate the stage. That's him. That's his thinking process. At least that's what I get out of it. He comes across as an alpha male in regards to his presence of thinking. Small-minded, petty, a paucity of ideas that he believes he can cover over just by presence alone. I suspect that's probably why people are like, he was embarrassed in Helsinki when he was with Vladimir Putin. It was like, oh, he made us look weak. He made us look weak. And I think on some level he gets, I'm just a rich kid who failed at everything. This guy is really leading a country, and so am I. But he was actually, at some point, killing other people in his duties, like meaning this guy rides a bear. I'm just Trump. I think he knows that somewhere deep. But from the standpoint of his impression of these other people, yeah, dominate. That's the impression that I get out of this. So if you are diminishing his best attribute, how is he going to see it? They're trying to protect Joe Biden. They're trying to protect Joe Biden. The problem is, Mr. President, you're full of COVID. Your body is full of COVID. You have a chubby body that is stuffed with COVID-19. And you have a head swimming with all sorts of experimental drugs and steroids. And considering the Twitter rants and the belligerents and, running around just he-manning shit out, I don't even know if you're sane right now. Attacking Facebook, throwing off like just obscene politics of blowing off Nancy Pelosi's offer of $2 trillion. Because you are in a political contest where you have a goddamn presidential race to win. And that's in November, next month. She is giving you money to seal that deal. Now, I understand you have Republicans that are not going to go along with you, but I am making the point that if they're giving you $2 trillion, you should take it, considering the state of the country. And you don't. And they have you blowing off the negotiations. I make it the point that you have been making some critical mistakes. And part of this may be embarrassment. Oh my God, I got COVID, I look weak. It may be this notion of I've downplayed COVID. I've told the country that this is not a big deal. And then, bam, I got it. Shocking that COVID wasn't an issue of masculinity. It was always an issue of fucking science. It's goddamn reality. And I keep saying your reality or ideology. Reality doesn't care about your ideology. And you ran around showing your tail in heat to a virus. And it bit. And your body is now full of that virus. So it is not insane, even if people get a bit of joy out of it, to say, I am not going to put Joe Biden, who other Republicans think is going to be the president of the United States and that Trump is going to lose in the election. Look, this is what they're saying in the background, that they believe Trump's going to lose. In the same room with a man full of COVID-19, even if that guy is the president of the United States. Why would we do that? Why would we take that risk? Why would we take that chance? You did that. Nobody else did that. You did that. Like, I don't think you fully grasp your fuck-ups. You started off in a situation, if you would have didn't ask, which matters more, your masculinity or your economic benefit? Or, for that matter, staying in office. This could be a radically different race right now. When you came out, hey, COVID, Medicare for all with COVID-19, you would have been to the left of the majority of Democrats that was in that race. And the country would have appreciated that. If you would have, hey, let's get a mask policy going early, you'd have been able to open this country back up early. You would not have 200,000 deaths on your back. And yes, the Democrats would have bitched about even if you had had 3 deaths, but at the very least, that's an argument you can win. I'm saying this could be a radically different race right now. And I could be making far better arguments in regards to my side of the political fence on the lefty standpoint, because at that point, you would have looked like a far larger threat than what you do now. Which means that Biden can just ignore all of this stuff. And you are in a situation where you need debates. Need them. A gasp of air of sorts in order to change any kind of narrative whatsoever. Which is why so much pressure was on that first debate. And so if you're blowing it off, that's you blowing it off. Joe Biden is going to stand there in an empty room and just talk to himself. Something that he pretty much does anyway. I'm making the point that you, Mr. President, in one failed plan, misstep, appalling action, ridiculous idea about how the world and reality works, and one just misbegotten step after the next, have put yourself into a situation where you got yourself sick, and now they can basically blow off the debates because you're the one that did it. That's on you. That's on you. So I agree with you from the standpoint of your best attribute is to be in the room and to be able to inject and all of this other stuff. Fair enough. And I even agree with you that this notion of them changing the rules without getting input from the participants, meaning how are you going to change a rule from a contest that I am also in? And if I believe that I want to be in the room with that particular guy and you're telling me that we can't, how do you square that? How do you change the rules like that? So I get that. I even agree with that. The problem here is, whether I agree with it or not, the reality is the real life politics, if you want to call it, is that you need the debates. You have nothing else to change the conversation, short of doing something in government, meaning short of passing something, short of starting some kind of war, short of, doing something obscene to grab some kind of interest. But even that is not necessarily going to win you the presidency. And so you need something in those debates to make it clear of why people should choose you versus Joe Biden. And the moment that you got COVID-19 was the moment that they could say the president is unwell. The president is not healthy. And Joe Biden could say, I trust the scientists. And the scientists say your ass is infected. So, no. And when October 15th, I trust the scientists. The scientists say you could still be infected if you test negative. How can I trust it? No. I want the virtual debate. I want them to be able to turn you off like a boy. Is having in the background, just moving around, pissed off, Donald Trump. I guess my point is, this doesn't look good. And like I say, your decision space is narrowed, all from bad action on your part. So, I said it earlier, I think Trump is going to lose this race because I don't necessarily see what could take place where he could change the momentum to it. But who knows? Aliens can land on the White House. He could seal some kind of deal. And just, create authoritarian government from that point on. Or, who knows? 2020 has been a really fucking weird, bizarre year, to put it mildly. And so, anything can happen, right? I'm doubtful. I think this looks bad for Trump. And also, it came out he's pulling out of certain states, which typically means a person is trying to save their money because they believe they're going to lose. So, yeah, I don't know what he's going to do, but stay tuned. Like, share, and of course, subscribe. Xavier Foster, you think Biden wins because of this? Honestly, yes. Yes. Not because of this. No, I think Biden is going to win because there are 200,000 people dead. Because there are 30 million people out of a job. Because when Donald Trump started that stupid-ass trade war with China, it decimated that particular area because unlike our government, China has somewhat of a rational government. And honestly, they have to be rational. They're dealing with the U.S. It's a stronger opponent from the standpoint of military, so you have to be more careful. It's like a man around a bear or around a tiger or something. have to be more competent. But in their capacity, they were very specific in the thing that they were targeting in their trade deals, which hit Midwest. I mean, the soy farmers, I mean, think about it. China's what, 1.3 billion people? And when the United States is producing a particular crop that is going to those people, we can produce more of that crop. Those people can make more of that cash. And then, bam, that stops. Or that becomes more expensive. It hurts them. It hurts them. Why do you think Donald Trump was trying to pass those subsidies for these guys? I'm making the point, it's one policy after the next. It's not just one very specific thing. You have a virus that expanded, where the American public believed the virus was the most important thing ever, and the Trump administration believed that the economy was the most important thing ever. All of these things. What, the elderly population? You have 42% of the nursing homes, or the people who've died in COVID-19 were people who were in nursing homes, meaning basically said, fuck the elderly. On Fox News, right now, you could probably hear somebody saying, yeah, I mean, it's pretty selfish of the elderly and squeamish to hold the country back in this way instead of letting us get back to work and all. I mean, it's fucking insane. Even the bitching at the mask stuff. If Trump would have started that mask policy, there would be far fewer deaths, and the country would be far back to work earlier than what we are now. I'm just saying. I'm not saying it's just because of this. I'm saying the momentum of this race has it that it seems that Biden is winning. That's what I come across as. I could be wrong, and I even accept that the polls are probably going to be closer than that the election is going to be closer than what the polls are. But the catch becomes, there's such a cacophony of fuck-ups that I don't know how to reconcile what it means for Trump to win. Like, it's that bad. Because I look at this and be like, there's no fucking way. It's like, how? How? I don't see it. I honestly don't see it. Now, yeah, you may have some kind of shady shit around the polling and everything else and making long lines and all that stuff. Yes, agreed. But if Trump wins, it would be shocking to me. That's not entirely a polling thing. That's kind of a polling thing and just kind of a, wow. By the same token, there's no salvation in voting for Biden. And I still say voting for Biden is a subversion of democracy, not an exaltation of it. And then maybe you can even make an argument that Trump winning is an exaltation of democracy, whatever the hell that means at that point. It means the same thing as it meant before. It's just a different amalgam of things that push people to those things. But yeah, I think Biden wins. I think I said it before. I don't see anything changing. It's true that Trump is the president. It's true that he can do, something in that office. But 30 million people are out of a job. And the president has just said, let's punt on the negotiations to get this money out until after the election. The new Congress is not going to come until January. So what do you think you're going to get different from the Congress that you got now? It's misery. It's pain in the country. And none of that stuff changed. And the political instrument doesn't necessarily seem to care, especially the president. So yeah, I think Biden wins. He needs to shut his fucking fracking mouth. He needs to shut his fracking mouth. And it comes from social engineering. Difficult to persuade people virtually. Yes. Let them fight. Or saith, let them fight. The virtual debate thing is a little weird. And I don't blame Trump for being pissy on this front. I just have this image in my head of Trump in a monitor, like a little box. And Joe Biden in a monitor, like a little box. And sometimes they would flip to one or the other. Trump is going to talk. He's going to try to talk over Biden. And he's going to be flailing about and moving. And they're going to beep. You're just going to see him moving. You're not even going to see him saying anything. And it's going to look so ridiculous. And people are going to make memes of it. And they're going to laugh at it. That's what's in my head. I don't know what's in Trump's head on it. I do know he can't show presence without being on that stage together. to show I am the strong one and he's a weak man. That type of stuff. I think to some degree that is the way he frames the world. He's not going to get that. The question becomes, do they actually have the power to change the debate schedule like that without the consent of one of the candidates? And it looks like they may have, considering that's exactly what they just did. Like, share,